Hello and welcome to my jungle. We really be looking like a jungle tonight. This is a vibe. I'm here for it. So today's video, what did I call it? 5 ways houseplants are great for an ADHD mind. Well, that's a little dramatic. I like that. Okay, there we go. 5 ways that houseplants are great for an ADHD mind. Or at least my ADHD mind. So, while I go over these 5 things that I'm going to talk about, I'm also just going to prune and give some care to my Boston fern here. I bought it about a month ago. I don't even know that I expected it to last this long, you know, with the dry house that I have. But we've had a lot of loss of leaves, but also a lot of new growth. I feel like, you know, we lost a lot of leaves acclimating, and maybe this might just work. I mean, look at the size of this. How could I not try? It's like bigger than I am. This lives on top of my greenhouse cabinet, which I love because it is, you know, tall and bushy. And on the other side of the cabinet, trailing down the side, I have my string of pearls and my string of needles. So it's quite the contrast in growth patterns and colors and just everything about them, and I love that. I think they balance each other out perfectly, and I'm so glad that it might make it in my care. It's in a self-watering pot, which I don't think I've ever used before, so I'm just winging that. I have no idea how you're supposed to know when the tray is empty and things. I guess let's get into the video. So just going to disinfect my little shears before we get started. So the first little lesson that I've gained from my houseplants is patience. Patience is not something that I've ever had, and this is a hobby that's like a practice of patience, always. And you know, I can see a huge contrast between my patience with my houseplants from the beginning of my houseplant, I don't know, journey, experience, whatever you want to call it. You know, I've mentioned before that I would want to purchase plants that were already established and large and just ready to look amazing from the beginning. That now, over the years, I really respect the process of spending less on a smaller plant, maybe even a cutting, and growing a plant from one cutting that you've purchased from a person from their own collection or traded with, which would be even better. Anyway, patience. Getting off track, of course. Yeah, and even if you do buy a big established large plant, I guess like this, I bought this large already, you're still going to have to learn patience anyway, because it's a plant, it's a living thing. It's not like buying a piece of decor that's you purchase and put on a shelf and it just looks fantastic all the time. It has to acclimate to your house, you know, what we have going on here. All this business here, acclimating, love that. You're going to get pests at some point. It's pretty inevitable, and you have to manage that, and you know, the plant may not look amazing after that. You have to have the patience to sort of nurture it back to health and still care for it. And yeah, you know, plants are a really unpredictable hobby. You don't usually know that you're going to get pests. They don't send you a postcard on the way to let you know they're dropping in. They just appear. I don't know about anyone else out there with a neurodivergent mind, but things just suddenly popping up and changing, or popping up and happening when I wasn't ready for it or don't want to deal with it is, I don't know, like the end of the world. Surely that's how bad it feels. I guess, yeah, I'm not that easygoing. Anyway, all of these things are skills at the end of the day. They are life skills. They are mental skills. You can practice and learn. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. That might be incorrect. There might be something in your brain that just will never let you learn a certain skill, but you can try. And, you know, I'm not sitting here saying that I'm now this plant monk that sits here in complete silence and peace, and all my plants are perfect all the time and I'm completely at peace with where they're at. No, I get frustrated, I get upset. I had a plant die for the first time in I don't know how long the other day, and I cried, like I was gutted. So I'm not saying that plants have turned me into this perfect person at all, but they're giving me the opportunity to practice these skills every single day. So love that for me. And you know, I think patience is even just relevant just down to something as small as watering. I've mentioned before that I'm an overwaterer by nature because I'm a helicopter mum and a plant mum. Anyway, I would get impatient and just water plants anyway, and it's like, oh, you'll be right, you can just have a little drink, because I'm watering plants right now and there needs to be plants somewhere I can water. And do you know what happens if you do that all the time? Is you get root rot and your plants die, and you lose your Thai constellation, the most expensive plant that you've ever bought. It taught me quick smart, not quick smart actually, it took a couple of years, but eventually it taught me, hey, if you actually love this plant and you want to be able to look at it longer, don't water the plant. It's not ready. Let it be. Take a step back, find something else to do, and let your babies be. Okay, number 2, special interests. Now, I know that it's an autistic trait, but I'm pretty sure that it's also an ADHD trait to have special interests and to sort of hyper-focus and fixate on these special interests and, you know, spend quite an amount of your time, your life with these special interests. And they can chop and change and things like that, and they definitely do, especially with ADHD. But plants was the first hobby that has ever stuck. I'm a hobby hopper. I hop around from hobby to hobby for 5 minutes. Plants, I don't think are going anywhere. It's a never-ending special interest. You could never learn all there is to know about plants. Maybe you're like Roberto Burley Marx and you do know everything about plants, but it's going to take me a long time to learn everything about plants. And you know, there's often always things you can kind of be doing with your plants, fertilizing and watering them and pruning them and cleaning their leaves and repotting if they need it, and propagating and all these sorts of things, as well as learning about new plants, and then having sort of like side quests or little niche parts that you want to learn about. Maybe there's a particular genus you're super into, for instance, syngoniums for me, and you go down that rabbit hole and you start learning all the varieties and the differences between them and facts about the plants and all this sorts of stuff. And yeah, it's just the never-ending special interest. I love that, because if you're chasing the dopamine, you're looking to do things that make you happy. Plants are always there to make you happy. Number 3, this is literally nature therapy, also called ecotherapy. This is something that I know is practiced, you know, with psychologists and OTs and, you know, like group help stuff. Oh my god, words. Please understand me. I don't know. Anyway, so nature therapy. Nature therapy is the practice of being in nature to boost growth and healing, especially in mental health. You know, it's a recognized thing, and this is literally therapy. So for me and my ADHD mind, I find it extremely hard, if not damn near impossible, to be mindful, like mindfulness, you know, to be in the moment completely, and all your thoughts and everything, just to be what's happening right now. I have tried meditation for years, and I do love meditation. I love meditation, but I can tell you, my mind is still not in the moment. It's just managed and controlled. The only thing that has ever just put me in the moment, and all I'm thinking about is exactly what I'm doing in that moment, is caring for my plants. So I saw these couple of studies done that I feel like I should mention. There was a study done evaluating focus in children, and you know, 2 groups of children in different classrooms went through a series of different tasks and tests and things like this. Their focus was being tested, And in one classroom there was a giant green wall, and the other classroom there was no plants. Boring old classroom like we all went to school with, well at least I did. And the children in the classroom with the plants scored much higher than the counterparts in the other room. And more ADHD specific, there was a 2008 study published in Psychology Today, and there were participants who were exposed to nature and taken out on a nature walk and through nature, and there were participants who were even just shown photos of nature. And then of course there were participants who had the sort of urban equivalent of that, so walked through an urban area or a metro area, I don't know, and photos of an urban area. And these are participants with ADHD. And then I suppose there was a series of tests completed afterwards, and the participants that were exposed to nature scored a much more positive result in regards to focus and anxiety compared to the participants who had an urban time. And yes, for things like that I do need to read off a pad because my working memory sucks. So yeah, nature therapy in your own house every day. Do you know how expensive therapy is? I mean, yeah, okay. Houseplants can be too if you're not being smart, which leads me on to my next point: impulse control. Eek. Judging by my own experience as well as the experiences that I have seen within the community, other people in the community with ADHD, impulse control, especially when it comes to a special interest, is lacking. Pretty sure impulse control is one of those things that come from dopamine being released in your brain and things, isn't it? And we're not good at that, so in turn, not good at things like impulse control. This is a work in progress lesson for me. I'm not going to deny that. I can also very proudly say that how far I've come since I first started getting into houseplants is a long way. I spend less and I'm also smarter with my money, not buying plants that will have an inevitable death in my care. Things like my cabinet behind me was it was a lot of money. And to modify it to function as a greenhouse as well as just a display cabinet added on top of that. And the thing is that is also an investment. By having this cabinet, I have plants that I probably wouldn't have otherwise, as well as the plants are growing faster and larger and better and more beautiful in there. And I'm starting to sell these plants, and it won't take that long to make the money back. A lot of the plants that I have in there, cuttings are worth, I would say most of my sort of sellable collection is at sort of just like mid-range rareness, expensiveness. So averaging, I would say, like a cutting being worth about $100. So it wouldn't take too long to sell a handful of cuttings and make the money back that was spent on that cabinet. I actually have another cabinet sitting there, a different design cabinet, not the IKEA cabinet, to make into another greenhouse cabinet to actually start making a bit of a worthwhile profit from my plants, especially now that I'm not working. Anyway, am I off topic? I feel like I'm off topic. What am I talking about? Impulse control. So, getting into houseplants, you can go very crazy very fast, and there's just so much available to you that, oh my goodness, madness. You can just go mad, and a lot of people do. A lot of Facebook posts on plant groups and things that I see is people saying that I started with one and 3 months later I have like 120 plants, and that's insane, and also relatable. Again, it's a skill, and it's a skill that challenges you every day, maybe, I don't know, it challenges you a lot, and it's a skill that you work on, you build on, and you get better at. Yeah, like I said, I'm a work in progress still, but hey, I can say that I have gotten better with my impulse control in relation to my plants. Next point. Routine. Now, and we're done printing that part. It looks fantastic. Routine is an interesting, love-hate relationship for myself and many other ADHDers. I feel out of control and uncomfortable and mentally unwell when I need routine, and then I have a routine and I stick in this routine for a while and my brain gets bored and frustrated and a little angry and crave spontaneity and something different and trying different things and doing something drastic. So having houseplants for me is having this constant mild routine. I don't have a set plant routine. There's people that water their plants on Wednesdays or something. I don't know. I would not recommend a plant routine because I don't think that's the best way to care for your plants. I think that there's too many variables involved on whether or not the plant needs to be watered in 1 week, one time, or, at 10 days the next time, or 4 days the next time. There's too many variables involved, and having a schedule, I feel like you're going to end up with dead plants. Anyway, despite that, you obviously still need to maintain some form of a routine to maintain houseplants. They do need to be watered frequently to some degree, and you kind of need to keep on top of that, or keep on top of checking in on your plants to see whether or not they need to be watered. I know time blindness is a huge factor in my care for plants, and I get very confused when a plant can still be super wet, or if I go to check on a plant and it's absolutely bone dry and starting to die and wither away. That can be very surprising and confusing to me because I've had this time blindness and I think that I've watered it some amount of time ago, and it's actually, reality is drastically different. So again, this is a skill that keeping houseplants has forced me to practice. It's memory practice. Having ADHD means that your working memory, or I don't know if that's, I think that's everyone with ADHD. I know that I was told specifically that my working memory was quite useless. And this is a tool and a skill to practice constantly, consistently. You never get a break because you can't take a break from your plants. I mean, that's a whole other thing. That you can take a break from your plants, and I will talk about that one day. But in the big picture of things, you can't take a break from plants. You can't just not be interested for 6 months and then try to come back and think that your plants would still be alive. You have to practice this skill if you want to keep plants. And I generally have no idea what my watering routine is. I guess I do a little bit here and there. I think I sometimes do just my plants are kind of in sections around my house in little groups. And I might do a group at a time where I check in on all the plants in that group because I was walking by and got distracted and wanted to look at them. I don't know. I feel like I'm off topic and confused. But with things like lockdown and for me personally not working anymore, that very open-endedness of just home all day, every day, with no set structure, routine, can be mind melting. At least I know it is for me. But the one constant, if nothing else, is my houseplants need to be taken care of. Need to be taken care of often. About at least once a week, each plant needs to be checked on to see where it's at, to make sure that it's pest free, just to keep an eye and see what they're doing. Or at least that's how I care for my plants, I guess I should say. And I'm very thankful for the mild routine that houseplants force upon me. Thank you, you needy little friends. Okay, so that was 5 ways. What did I name this video? 5 ways that I think houseplants are great for an ADHD mind. I actually do have a little bonus thing here, a little bonus point to mention that I didn't think I had enough to talk about to give its own point. And 6, it needs to be 5 with a 6, no. Anyway, I read something once when I was reading up between the correlation between autism, ADHD, or neurodivergence and trauma, and it was explaining how someone with ADHD, because of just the way that their mind works, through childhood you're likely to experience a lot of failed moments. You know, trying something out and you fail at it, and that doesn't mean that you're always going to fail at it, but yeah, particularly you know, children who go undiagnosed, because obviously there's no support there, and that by the time you reach adulthood you have this sort of trauma response and this expectation that you will fail at everything, and it puts in this huge hurdle inside your brain that makes it very hard to try new things or try things that in your mind you think might be challenging, because you have an expectation that you'll fail, and you have an expectation that you will let people down because you fail, and it's a concept that lives in a lot of minds of people who are neurodivergent. And on that note, one of the things that I love about houseplants is that you have the opportunity for redemption. There are fails with keeping houseplants. I think it's inevitable. Things will go wrong, or I don't know. It's just a natural part of keeping a large collection of houseplants, that things will happen. And every now and again, plants will die, particularly, you know, when you're first starting out keeping them. But when something happens to your plant, you have the opportunity to not only try and recover the plant, but you can, you know, snip a piece off that's still healthy-ish and propagate that and have the chance to regrow that into a new plant. You have the chance to even just go out and buy the same plant again and just try again and try to care for it in a different way and see what works and what's going on and working it out. And it just feels like another really great thing to be consistently doing, to consistently watch myself fail and have a plant die, and to then watch myself redeem that failure. And it's like a self-esteem building exercise. I don't know. Keeping plants is like, I don't know, it's like psychologists came up with the whole concept in a big meeting one day and released it to the world, because it really teaches you a lot. There's a lot to grow and learn from it, and it literally can help you be a better person. I don't know if that came off wrong. I was just thinking about like patience and stuff. Houseplants are great. You know, they're not just beneficial for people with ADHD or neurodivergence of any kind. They're beneficial for anyone. I feel like most cases of mental illness are going to benefit from tending and caring and loving and having something grow from your care. And, you know, if there are mentally healthy people out there in the world, is that even a thing? I don't know. But, you know, I'm sure that there's benefits for them to learn too. So thank you for watching. I hope that this was interesting, was insightful, was encouraging. Maybe, I don't know, maybe people will feel more comfortable trying out plants. I hope so. I hope that's the outcome. That would be nice. Okay. Oh boy, you're very far away for me to, you know, do the goodbye thing. Okay, bye.